Welcome all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. It's news that's nightly about the Redskins. Welcome to the Redskins Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Let's get to our lead story. So, this morning, news broke of the New York Giants deciding to bench two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback Eli Manning in favor of rookie Daniel Jones. And I talked about this being a realistic possibility after the Giants lost and looked pretty pathetic in their Week 2 defeat at home to the Buffalo Bills. He didn't look very good in Week 1, did Eli Manning, and he didn't look any better in Week number 2. Now, I don't know if the Giants would have won either one of those football games. I think they were outclassed in both of those games, but I can tell you this much. His athleticism, his being Daniel Jones, would have aided and abetted the Giants in both of those games and given them probably a better chance of being competitive in both of those football games. If you watched their Week 2 loss or even saw highlights, they were down 21-7 for much of that football game, and Eli Manning's inability to escape the pocket, use his legs, and extend plays really hurt them, not only in Week 2, but also in Week 1 versus the Dallas Cowboys. I talked about this on lockdown coverage, that it was a realistic possibility that Eli Manning could be benched in favor of Daniel Jones in Week number 3. However, I didn't think it would come to fruition on the road at Tampa, a team that's playing with some confidence. However, they think the time is right. Pat Shurmur feels like this season is slipping away from the Giants. And again, he's another one of these coaches that's on the hot seat that people think could easily be fired after just 2 seasons in New York. And if things go south and he sees the writing on the wall with Eli Manning at quarterback, that he could be out of there. And so he makes the change. He was a staunch supporter of Daniel Jones in this preseason, and Jones played really well. So one thing I can say about this move, I don't know if it's going to benefit the Giants in terms of wins or losses. What I do know is they're getting their young quarterback in the game, and he's going to get something that he can't get on the sidelines with a headset on listening to play calls. Experience. Whether he's good or he's bad, and he was extremely proficient in the preseason. This is not the preseason. Teams will game plan to stop him. Teams will give him complex looks. It's not going to be vanilla. He's not going to see a bunch of basic coverages. He's going to see blitzes. Things are going to come at him fast, and he's going to make some mistakes. That's what rookies do. But he's also going to make plays. It's Daniel Jones. And as I just mentioned, you can't coach. You can't take mental reps. You can't coach up experience. Either you're in the game and you're learning, or you're not. You don't get practice reps when you're in the season. The starter takes all of the practice reps. You're not going to get any kind of experience taking scout team reps. Those don't help you at all whatsoever. So in terms of Daniel Jones, I think it's the right move for the Giants. Their season is going nowhere fast. You might as well get the young fella in there. And even if you're going to lose football games, at least lose while he's gaining invaluable experience. But that's another discussion for another day. So the reason this is a lead story is because of the shade thrown out by our guy, Dwayne Haskins, a.k.a. Young Simba. So on Twitter, and we all know that Dwayne Haskins still feels like he should have been the quarterback of the New York Giants. Felt like he got shafted on draft night. Felt like he was wrongly passed over. And quote unquote, he already has said the league done messed up. Well, we're going to find out eventually if, in fact, the league done messed up. However, he feels like the Giants done messed up when they took Daniel Jones over him. And now he's throwing even more shade. Now, to who? I don't know. Is this towards the Giants? Is this towards Daniel Jones? Or is this towards the Redskins? And this is the thing I hate about players and their cryptic tweets. You really don't know what they're trying to say, what point they're trying to make. Who are they trying to make this point to? But that's what players do, and they know what they're doing, and they do it purposefully. But these are why cryptic tweets are what they are. Similar to the situation with the Jets, with their safety, and how he has removed the Jets from all of his social media. Again, what does that actually even mean? Does he want out of New York? We don't know, but that's what players do. They send cryptic messages and tweets, and this is one from our guy, Dwayne Haskins, simply saying sheesh. Now, you ask yourself, How do we even know he's talking about the situation in New York with Daniel Jones? How do we even connect the dots here? What are you doing, Louie T? Here's what we're doing. We're connecting dots. We're playing detective, as I often like to do on this program. And so the news of Daniel Jones getting the nod in week 3 on the road at Tampa and Eli Manning being benched in favor of Daniel Jones, that came down the news wire at approximately 10:20 a.m. Okay? That's when everyone got wind of that decision made in New York. Want you to take your attention and focus it here on the time that this tweet was sent out this morning. 10:21 a.m., a mere minute after the Giants released the news that Daniel Jones would be starting in week number 3. Dwayne Haskins simply tweets out, sheesh. Now, what does that actually mean? I don't know. I don't know if he's throwing shade at the Redskins because he's not starting, even though he himself said, I would prefer to be out an entire year and learn this offense through and through and figure things out and be comfortable enough so that when I get in, there's no looking back. He said that himself. So I don't think there's a rush on his part, but maybe he sees the Redskins struggling at 0-2, sees some missed throws by Case Keenum and some opportunities where he could probably use his legs to escape the pocket, hasn't done so, feels like he could help the Redskins win. I don't know. Again, we can't really know what is the true meaning behind this tweet. We just know he said sheesh, and he's talking about the situation with Daniel Jones. Is he saying sheesh because, man, that was pretty quick? Jones is getting the nod in New York. Man, that could have been me. I don't know. Maybe he's saying something along those lines, or maybe he's saying, all right, so the Giants are giving this guy an opportunity. Wow, that was quick. I would love an opportunity. We'll see what he does. I don't know. We don't really know. All I know is there's shade being thrown here to somebody from Dwayne Haskins. Now, who is it being thrown at? Is it at Daniel Jones? Is it at the New York Giants? Or is it at his own team in the Washington Redskins? Or is he just saying, sheesh, that was quick? I don't know. Maybe we're reading too much into it. Maybe we're not reading enough into it. All I know is that I'm almost at the point, even though Case Keenum has done nothing wrong, and the next 3 games will tell the story. Really, the next game will tell the story for me. Because if the Redskins lose to the Chicago Bears, which I don't anticipate them winning, but if they lose that football game and drop to 0-3, then they're automatically 0-5 or 1-4. One of the two, okay? They're not winning the next 2 games after week 3. They're not beating New England in week 5 at home. So you're either 1-4 because you went to the Meadowlands and beat the Giants, which I feel like got a lot tougher. I would have much rather seen Eli Manning's slow-footed ass than Daniel Jones and his athleticism. Yes, he may make some mistakes, but he's also going to use his legs. We have never had success against mobile quarterbacks, and so that scares me. I was not looking forward to seeing Daniel Jones until the second time we played the Giants. Now we're going to have to deal with him the first time around. Won't be a ton of tape on him. I'm not looking forward to it. That could easily turn into a loss for the Redskins now. We could easily be 0-5. I was really counting on that Giants game with Eli Manning as a win. Now that could easily be a loss. So in any event, we could be 0-4, 0-5, 1-4 at best if we don't beat the Bears. 0-5 at worst if we don't win any games. At that point, going to Miami, I think it's pretty safe to say that that would be the time to turn it over. Whether you're 1-4 or 0-5, I think that's the time to turn the reins over to Dwayne Haskins if you're not able to take care of the Bears on Monday night. Because if you beat the Bears and then you find a way to go to the Meadowlands and beat the Giants, all of a sudden, what seemed like a very daunting task to get back to 500, all of a sudden you're back at 500 at 2-2, and the New England Patriots are coming in town, probably going to lose that game. But if and I said this when the schedule came out, and most of you out there said the same thing. If we can find a way to navigate our way through the first 5 games of the season at 2-3, you got to feel really good about what the Redskins were able to do in the first 5 weeks of the season. Anything better than 2-3, and you say, God damn it, we got a shot this season of making the postseason and winning the division. You got to feel really good if we come out of this thing better than 2-3. At this point, we would pay for 2-3 out of this stretch because we dropped the first 2. And again, I don't anticipate us beating New England. I don't think many of you out there think we're going to beat New England either, but that's too far down the road to be talking about now. We got the Chicago Bears coming up, and we'll talk more about the Cowboys game and put a lid on that, turn the page, and start turning our attention to Monday night at home versus the Chicago Bears. But in the meantime, I thought this tweet was interesting, to say the least. I don't even really know what it means. There's some shade being thrown. I don't think this is a harmless, oh man, Daniel Jones is starting. Interesting. Now, I don't think that's what this sheesh means. I think he means something behind this one-word tweet. What exactly is he saying? I think he's saying to the Redskins, damn, he's getting a start. When am I going to get my chance to start? I think that's what he's saying. But then, again, I could be wrong. That's the nature of these cryptic tweets. You send these out. You get everybody talking, but you really haven't said anything. And so we'll see what that means. Let's get to in other news. And I want to talk about the loss to the Cowboys quickly. Again, I went back, watched the game again. And upon further review, there are some things that stuck out to me that I want to discuss before we turn the page on the 31-21 loss at home to the Cowboys to drop the Redskins to 0-2 on the season. And so let's take a closer look at this loss before we move on and start looking at the Chicago Bears on Monday night. So the first thing I want to talk about is the player you see in front of you right now. I was actually really pleased with that small little package that we put in for Steven Sims. He was a guy that we were all excited to see make the roster after his Week 4 preseason performance. And we thought that was good enough to get him on this roster, and apparently it was. And we wanted to see more of him. He's on kickoffs. Surprisingly, he's not on punts. I thought that was another reason why he was going to make the football team, but apparently Jay Gruden is a little bit more comfortable with Trey Quinn being back there because he knows Trey, at worst, is going to catch it and not fumble the football away. And so I think he's still, Jay being a little scarred from Jamison Crowder a couple of years ago. And so he just wants a guy back there that, even if he's not going to bust off a big return, is definitely going to field the punt and not muff it away to the other team. So I would like to see Steven Sims assume the role of punt returner as well. And let's see him get the football in his hands in that regard. But it may take some time for Jay to get over his phobia of not having a short-handed guy back there and just putting a playmaker and a dynamic playmaker back there in Steven Sims. We'll see how long it takes him to eventually get over the phobia of having someone else other than Trey Quinn back there and allowing a guy that is a true playmaker in Steven Sims to be back there fielding punts. But I was excited to see Steven Sims get his hands on the football a couple of times in this game. One of the plays that I saw was that really creative trap that they ran with Steven Sims. And I saw the play and I'm like, I've seen that play before, and I couldn't really remember where I had seen it. And then it hit me. I remember seeing the Rams run that in Week 1 at versus Carolina. And so I went back to my Game Pass and I turned on the Week 1 game versus Carolina. And sure enough, there it was. They ran that little trap play, and they had a little bit of success with it. And I said to myself, well, I wonder, and teams and coaches, they tell you this all the time, they steal stuff from other coaches. And then it dawned on me, well, Kevin O'Connell is still really good friends with Sean McVay. They probably still talk on the phone, if I had to guess. And he watched film. He probably saw that play and said, damn, that's a really creative play. And here we are with a guy that we think is tailor-made for a play like this. How about we get the ball in his hands in a similar situation? And so the Redskins put it in the first scripted 15 plays, got Steven Sims the football, got him the ball on a jet sweep. And he's a guy that they want to get the football to in some screen situations. They threw him a bubble screen out there. I was excited for that package. I don't know about you, but I was really excited to see Steven Sims touch the football, and I want to see more of that. That was another takeaway from the game, that I want to see more of Steven Sims touching the football. He's dynamic. He's got moves. He's really electric out in space, And I want to see more of Steven Sims touching the football. I think they need to expand that from 1 or 2 or 3 plays to maybe getting him 5 to 6, maybe even 7 touches a game. I think that's something they need to continue to do with Steven Sims. I like that. There was something else I want to talk about. The receivers, the young receivers. I've been pleasantly surprised by the production we've gotten out of our receivers. Now, it hasn't been, a ton of production. The Redskins are still among the worst in the league in terms of wide receiver production after 2 weeks of football. So let's not get crazy with the receiver production that we've had. But some of that speaks to the lack of opportunities we've had on offense. Some of that speaks to the quarterback play and Case Keenum missing some opportunities, like the one with Terry McLaurin in week 1, like the missed opportunity to Paul Richardson in week 2 versus the Cowboys. So there have been missed opportunities, the missed deep ball to Terry in week 2 on the first play of the game. So some of that is to blame on the quarterback, but I've been impressed when these guys have gotten opportunities, when the ball has been delivered to them accurately and they've been able to get the football out in space. I've been really pleasantly surprised at how well these guys have performed. Trey Quinn seems like a guy right now that can win in the slot. When he's gotten opportunities, he's made the most of them. He's been really clutch for us on some critical and crucial 3rd downs and 4th downs. Had a 4th down catch to move the sticks. Had a 3rd down catch to move the sticks. Had a 3rd down catch in week 1 versus Philadelphia on a whip route where he caught it and turned outside and was able to get the 1st down. We've seen Paul Richardson make some plays. He had a drop in week 1 versus Philadelphia that was costly, but came back and had a touchdown grab in week 2 versus Dallas. Had an opportunity for another big play if Case Keenum sees him coming free and wide open for a touchdown in this game. And then, of course, Terry McLaurin has led the way thus far. Had a beautiful back shoulder touchdown. Also a catch in traffic for 27 yards over the middle of the football field. He's been dynamic for us. Has us thinking that we have a legit number 1 option potentially in this offense. So I just wanted to make mention of the fact that early on, I know it's only 2 weeks and you don't want to get crazy, but these young receivers have given us a reason to be optimistic about the Redskins passing game for 2019 and possibly into the future. And then I got one more thing that I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and it's a pet peeve. It's nothing really, and I probably shouldn't even mention it, but I'm going to because it pissed me off when I saw it initially. And that's Vernon Davis, all right, on a 2nd down and 10. And I know some of you may or may not know what I'm talking about, but there's a play in the 3rd quarter, maybe even the 4th quarter. Redskins trying to move the football, and Case Keenum finds Vernon Davis right at the sticks, right about 9 yards on 2nd and 10. And all Vernon has to do is fall forward, and it's a 1st down. But Vernon decides he's going to run backwards. And for what reason, I don't know. He starts running laterally, then runs backwards a bit. And instead of it being 1st and 10 with an 11-yard gain or a 10.5-yard gain, it's 3rd and 2. Now, luckily enough for him, we were able to convert on 3rd down. But boy, was I pissed off. My son was watching the game with me in my lap. I had just put him to sleep. And I go nuts when I see Vernon do that soft-ass shit. And I went bonkers, and I woke my son up, and that pissed me off, too, because I just gotten him to sleep. So it's a pet peeve of mine when guys don't know where they are on the field. And Vernon's too damn big for that bullshit. Get the 1st down, man. What are you doing? That could have cost us. And for a team that has had trouble possessing the football, converting on 3rd downs, and moving the sticks, and keeping the defense off the field, you can't afford to have those kinds of mishaps. Luckily enough, on that particular set of downs, we were able to convert. But if we didn't convert there, boy, would I have torn Vernon a new asshole right then and there. Luckily enough for us, it didn't come back to haunt the Redskins in that particular game. But that's nor here nor there. Redskins weren't able to do enough. And for the 2nd week in a row, there's a sequence of events that have taken place where you can argue that the Redskins haven't done enough offensively. But when you look at the defense, and I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but when I went back and I watched, And I didn't really realize this initially, because when you're in the moment, when you're watching a game and you're in the moment, and this is why I've always said, and some of you out there disagree with me, and I will always feel this way, and there's nothing you can say to change my mind, and the Redskins haven't won a toss this year, but if you win the toss, the move is to defer. It's always to defer. There are some coaches out there that believe, I want to take the football, I want to take it down the field, I want to score first, I want to set the tone, yada, yada, yada. That's good, and that's cute, and that's nice if you have that type of team where if you get a lead, it's hard for the other team to wrestle the momentum away from you. We've had the lead in both of the first two contests of the season, and that hasn't made one bit of a difference. As a matter of fact, we had a 17-point lead in week 1 versus Philadelphia on the road. That didn't make one bit of difference. So my thought process, and if you've watched me for any amount of time, then you know how I feel about winning the toss and deferring. I think that's the right move, and I think teams are on to that because you have a chance to double dip at the end of halves. You can score right before halftime, and then you get it again right after the half. And the Cowboys executed this beautifully. And I just want you to think about this as we turn the page on this Cowboys game. The Redskins were up 7-0, all right? Had great field position. Case Keenum, first of all, we have a holding penalty after great field position because the Cowboys had to punt. And we moved the football into Cowboys territory. We're right on the cusp of field goal range, probably right on the outside, maybe a yard or two more, and you're right in the field goal range for Dustin Hopkins. And then we get a holding penalty on second down. And then Case Keenum takes a sack on third down. And all of a sudden, you're out of field goal range. We have to punt the football. We down it at the 3-yard line. Then the Cowboys proceed to go on a 7-play, 97-yard drive to tie the game up at 7. The Redskins go 3 and out. The Cowboys then put together an 11-play, 75-yard drive that eats up the remainder of the first half, essentially, and they take the lead 14-7. And then they get the football back after the Redskins take a knee to take us to halftime. The Cowboys then get the football back, take the football, 9 plays, 75 yards, score another touchdown, and in a span of about 7 minutes of game action, let's call it 10 minutes of game action, the Redskins go from 7-0 to only having 4 plays, one of which was a knee to take us to half and a 3 and out, and are now down 21-7. You see how quickly that happens when the Redskins aren't able to move the football offensively, but more importantly, the defense isn't able to show up and get a stop and have little to no resistance versus the opposition. You go from up 7-0 to down 21-0, only having run 3 plays. That's ridiculous. The same thing happened against the Eagles. We were up 17-0. We give up the Deshaun Jackson touchdown. The Redskins then go on a small drive right before the half, get a field goal to make it 20-7. The Eagles then get the football to start the second half. They score a touchdown. The Redskins then go 3 and out. The Eagles then score another touchdown. And in the span of about, let's call it 15 minutes of game action, the Redskins go from 17-0 to down 21-20 in the football game, only having run really 7 plays. The 4 right before half that put them in field goal range, and the 3 and out in the second half. The Skins have to get stops defensively. They have to find ways to get off the field, and right now they're abysmal on third down. They have the worst third down defense in all of football. I was watching Sunday Night Football with the Eagles, and they showed a stat that I wasn't really aware of. Again, when you're in the game and you're watching it, you see it happening, you know it's bad, but you really don't know how bad it is until they actually put the numbers in front of you, and they were grotesque. The Carson Wentz was 12 of 13 on third downs versus the Redskins in week 1. 12 of 12 in the second half for 195 yards and 2 scores. Those 2 Deshaun Jackson touchdowns were both on third down. That is as bad as it gets. 12 of 12 in the second half on third downs? Are you kidding me? Dak Prescott wasn't much worse. Only problem was the Cowboys were so comfortable throughout the game that they weren't in many third downs. And when they weren't third and longs. They were third and shorts and third and manageables. And they picked them up with relative ease. in this football game. We've got to be better on third downs. But again, I have zero confidence in the Redskins' ability to be better on third downs. Yes, as Jay Gruden said a million times in his after-game presser and day after presser, yep, the Eagles and the Cowboys are two really good offenses. We're aware of that. Thank you for telling us over and over again. But also, you need to be able to get stops. Does that mean that every time we play an offense that's really good, we're going to give up 70, 80% of third downs? Is that what you're trying to tell us? That we don't have the capability of stopping really good offenses on third downs? Miss me with that. Find a way to get off the damn field. And I know we had injuries. Again, you got to apply pressure somehow, some way. Every defender in this league knows how to play man-to-man. Every single one. All right? Man across the board, leave a single high safety at the top so that you give those guys a defender in the back end that can clean up a mess if they get beat one-on-one. But force the issue. Do something. Change it up. Redskins haven't done that enough. They didn't do it against the Cowboys. And because of that, they got beat 31-21 with the Cowboys scoring on 5 consecutive possessions and then having a 6th possession where they ran out the clock to end the football game. Let's move on to close this show out. And we're going to turn the page tomorrow and talk about the Bears and start looking at the Bears. And it's a very winnable football game. The Bears right now are struggling on the offensive side of the football, but you got to know that they're licking their chops when looking at this Redskins defense and saying, look, if we can't get out of a funk against this Redskins defense, then we're not going to be very good on offense this season. And if you're a Redskins fan, if we can't slow down a Bears offense that right now, to their name, have a combined 17 points on the season in 2 weeks of football. Yes, 17 points. Yet, they're still 1-1, better than the Redskins, which tells you they're not giving up a whole hell of a lot of points. All right, they've given up 23 points. And that's dental floss thin this season, 23 points. The only team in the league to have given up less this season, the New England Patriots. So they're not giving up a bunch of points, are these Chicago Bears. So yes, they're not scoring a bunch, but they're not giving up a bunch either. And so while they're not scoring a whole lot of points, they're not giving up a lot either. So I don't know how this game is going to go, but we'll start to take a look at the Bears tomorrow. I've got a Redskins report coming at you guys a little bit later on tonight, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I've got a question to ask. Someone brought up a really interesting question, and I just figured I'd ask it and pose it to you guys because I'm wondering, and I think I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I still don't know how I feel about this particular question. So I'll come at you guys with that a little bit later on. But make sure you like this video. Love to hear how you feel about the Dwayne Haskins tweet this morning. What do you think that tweet actually meant? And also, any takeaways that you have 2 days after the Cowboys loss, if you've went back and watched the game, anything you may have noticed, maybe something that I've omitted and that you'd like to talk about, leave it in the comment section. We may bring it up in tomorrow's show. In any event, we're Skins fans, and we got skin in the game. Why? Because we're Skins fans for life. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. This has been the Redskins Nightly News. See you guys tomorrow.
Louie.